Instantly recognizable, one of the distinguishing features of many Sith is a transformation in the pigmentation of their eyes, wherein they adopt a vivid yellow and red appearance. Commonly known as Sith eyes, many proponents and users of the dark side came to experience the change, such as Darth Bane, Darth Malgus, Darth Maul, Darth Sidious, and Darth Vader. But one Sith who conspicuously did not have Sith eyes was the Sith Lord Darth Tyrannus, also known as Count Dooku. Dooku's lack of Sith eyes is perplexing, given that he was the apprentice of Darth Sidious for well over a decade, but yet Darth Vader experienced the phenomenon very shortly after his fall to the dark side and becoming a Sith. So it must be asked, why didn't Dooku have Sith eyes? In this video expose, I will explain why Dooku didn't have Sith eyes and describe how a dark side user typically experienced this change in appearance, and Dooku's use and motivations for adopting the dark side. In order to understand Dooku's lack of Sith eyes, it's first necessary to understand how and why Sith eyes occurred. They were a product of the dark side and its use, as the dark side didn't only affect the mind of the user, but it also affected the physical appearance of the user as well. The dark side of the Force was a power that was malevolent and malignant, and as an individual immersed themselves within this power, it worked to physically corrupt and degrade the body. Darth Bane understood this physical deterioration, and explained that the physical structures of the body, such as its flesh and bone, did not have the ability to continually channel the extensive power of the dark side. Both Revan and Darth Plagueis understood that this physical corruption was a necessary component to obtaining the full power of the dark side, as no moderation in seeking this power could be attempted. As Plagueis explained to his apprentice Sidious, although a user would undergo physical changes due to their immersion within the dark side, these changes were not the sign of debilitation. Importantly, as explained by Plagueis, the lack of physical deterioration, as represented by features such as Sith eyes, was the real sign of debilitation. This was because it signaled that the dark side user was not immersing themselves deep enough within the full power of the dark side. It's clear that Sith eyes were the result of a user's immersion within the dark side, as the deeper one immersed themselves within its power, the more it caused real physical changes to occur to the body. As seen with Darth Vader developing Sith eyes shortly after his fall to the dark side, the physical changes were not time-specific. That is, they weren't correlated to the user's time in using the dark side, but rather the intensity of their immersion within its power. Understanding this, we can conclude that Dooku did not have Sith eyes due to a lack of completely immersing himself within the full power of the dark side. As we'll come to see, this should not be surprising for a number of reasons. First, Dooku's motivation for joining the Sith and utilizing the dark side had always been to facilitate his political aims and ambitions, to reorganize the Republic under the rule of a strong, clairvoyant leader, rather than to use it to position himself as the dominant force in the galaxy. And second, although Dooku was a true, legitimate apprentice of Sidious, evidenced by his Darth title, Dooku's apprenticeship was always meant to be a placeholder until Sidious could take Anakin as his Sith apprentice, something that Sidious thought was his and Anakin's destiny. Let's take a look at the evidence that exists for these claims, and how they relate to Dooku's lack of Sith eyes, starting with his true purpose for using the dark side. The primary motivation for Dooku leaving the Jedi Order at the age of 70 was ultimately his disgust for what the Republic had fallen to become. Seeing that the Republic was ensnared by corruption, wherein political power was doled out to those with the deepest pockets, Dooku turned his back on the Order that had merely become a cog in the corrupt machine, and set out to cleanse the galaxy from what he saw as the natural result of democracy. Ultimately, in pledging himself to Sidious, Dooku found the method through which he could fulfill his political aims of restructuring the galactic government under the rule of a single leader, with that leader being Sidious and not himself. This was made clear when Dooku envisioned the new government that would rise to replace the Republic. At the Battle of Coruscant, prior to his duel with Obi-Wan and Anakin, Dooku let himself imagine the new order that he and Sidious were working towards, feeling that they were in the final stages of fulfilling their plan. Dooku looked forward to serving the new government that would personify power and authority through Sidious. Rather than looking to rule the galaxy himself, Dooku was happy to serve the Empire, as it was enough that it would replace the corrupt politicians of the Republic, with true authority embodied by Sidious. The fact that Dooku was motivated more by political ends, rather than seeking to rule the galaxy and tap into the dark side to obtain its true power, to make himself the ultimate authority within the galaxy, is also demonstrated through a conversation that he had with Tarkin prior to the outbreak of the Clone Wars. When Dooku intimated to Tarkin that a galaxy-wide conflict was on the horizon, and that he was committed to the idea of a galaxy under a single enlightened leader, Dooku dismissed Tarkin's question that he was referring to himself by telling Tarkin that he was ambitious, but not that ambitious. Dooku was not motivated by seeking the full power of the dark side to propel himself to ruler of the galaxy. Rather, Dooku was motivated in serving Sidious, and to bring about the restructuring of the galaxy under the authority of his master. This is also clearly seen when Dooku told Sidious during the Battle of Coruscant, just prior to his death, that, quote, "It is fatiguing to play the villain for so long." At this time, Dooku even suggested to Sidious that they give Obi-Wan another chance to join them, as gaining the support from him in their new order would provide the Empire with increased legitimacy. Of course, this was dismissed outright by Sidious, who saw Obi-Wan as too indoctrinated and committed to the fables and beliefs of the Jedi. Dooku's tiring in playing what he saw as the villain, and his desperation in attempting to legitimize the coming Empire with Jedi such as Obi-Wan, demonstrates that Dooku was motivated more by his desire to end the corruption of the Republic and to establish a government led by Sidious. Dooku did not seek out the full power of the dark side in the same way that Sith such as Bane and Sidious did, wherein the dark side itself would legitimize the new Empire, not respected Jedi. We can conclude that Dooku didn't completely immerse himself in the dark side, and therefore, he was not corrupted by its power to experience the physical degradation that would have resulted in him having Sith eyes. Dooku was out to serve the authority of the new established political order, and not the dark side. But there's another explanation for why Dooku did not have Sith eyes, which is the fact that regardless of Dooku's title of Darth, he was never the true apprentice of Sidious, and merely an apprentice in name until Anakin could be turned to the dark side, thereby limiting his learning in the ways of the dark side from Sidious. This was a fact that Dooku came to realize himself moments before his death. As he looked up at Anakin after being defeated, he came to fully realize that he'd been deceived by Sidious throughout the entirety of his apprenticeship to the Dark Lord. Importantly, Dooku realized that he was never the true apprentice of Sidious. He even had the insight to understand that he was never the true heir to the power of the Sith and the dark side, merely the tool to drive Anakin towards Sidious. Dooku's instincts that he was never the true heir to this power was confirmed in a fascinating exchange between Anakin and Palpatine prior to the Jedi's fall to the dark side. Discussing whether the Jedi were plotting to overthrow the Republic by inventing faceless, mysterious enemies, after Anakin pointed out that Dooku was a clear embodiment of the Sith, Palpatine countered by stating, was he truly a Lord of the Sith, or was he just another in your string of fallen Jedi, posturing with a red lightsaber to intimidate you? Although this statement could represent Sidious's efforts to manipulate Anakin, I do believe that there is some truth in his statement and how he viewed Dooku. Even after Vader's fall, only weeks after Revenge of the Sith and Dooku's death, Sidious told his new apprentice that Dooku was someone who had to be sacrificed along the way to taking control of the galaxy, and referred to his weakness in the dark side of the Force. Therefore, we can conclude that Sidious must have held back in bestowing the full secrets and power of the dark side upon Dooku, viewing him rather as a perfect pawn and tool in his plan to turn Anakin to the dark side and rule the galaxy side by side with him, and not Dooku. This would have prevented Dooku from being intensely immersed within the complete power of the dark side, and since he was not naturally consumed with anger and rage like Anakin, this prevented him from experiencing the physical corruption and deterioration that would result in his obtaining Sith eyes. So there we have it, why Dooku didn't have Sith eyes. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions. Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me, for dark side corruption.